You wrote, I thought, a fascinating angle because I've said this, and while the situations are not the same, and I don't mean to say that UNC is this, I'll just use the term cursed. I don't really mean it in terms of a curse. But when Aaron Rodgers signed with the Jets 2 years ago, my initial reaction was, can Rodgers overcome the Jets? Because the Jets, have been one of the worst run franchises in all of professional sports for a long time. So you intimated Bill Belichick, greatest coach probably of all time, certainly in the NFL, but can he overcome what really has been, other than pockets here and there, of relatively mediocre North Carolina football tradition?
No, it's always been mediocre, and it's what's crazy is, and I grew up in it.
Yeah.
I grew up there in Raleigh. My dad was an ACC official. I was well aware, but even me, I get paid to cover college football for a living, and proudly from the Tar Heel State. I didn't really understand how generic it was until I really started, because you just kind of get used to it. But the fact that they haven't won an ACC title since Lawrence Taylor was on the team, and the fact that probably, I don't think it's probably, I think it's true. The biggest win for the program ever was like the Gator Bowl that year. So, it's 2 times being in Charlotte and once just getting pounded, in the ACC championship game. And it's always been, you're right, it's about moments, and it's about certain players, because there's certainly been some all-time greats that have come out of there. Choo-Choo Justice and Lawrence Taylor, and Drake May was just the number 3 pick of the draft.
Right.
But it's never. So 15 years ago, I wrote a story for ESPN.com Insider. That's how long ago that was, and for the magazine. And I ranked like the top 10 programs of all time when it comes to how are they not good at football.
Mm-hmm.
And North Carolina was top 5. And it was Arizona State, Arizona, UCLA, Rutgers, North Carolina, because, you've got the talent in the state. You're the flagship program of the state. You have the resources, you just never been good. And it's never been great. And it's always been baffling, but yeah, something's got to give, right?
Yeah. Look, I don't know if this is the right thing. It is possible. And because I can make an argument, and Ryan McGee from ESPN is joining us here at ESPN McGee. I can make an argument that the immediate future of college football is so drastically different than even the immediate past of the game, with the transfer portal and NIL and free agency, and now we're going to have the House settlement forcing schools to share revenue with athletes, that maybe a pro approach is the right way to do it. And if it's the right way to do it, we already see Mike Lombardi is the GM of UNC football, that, look, I don't know if it's going to work out, but maybe the approach is solid, and maybe it can work with the right coach and the right approach.
Yeah, and I kind of wrote that in the piece, which is, do it, try it. If there was ever a time to put it in North Carolina terms, to heave it from midcourt, do it. Right? This is the time to do it, because it's never. I'm convinced that it's never going to be in a greater period of transition than it is right now. And there's going to be so many people watching this, because we all keep saying, "Oh, it's NFL light. It's NFL light. It's it's the NFL 2.0. It's the AAA affiliate of the NFL." Whatever. All right. Well, if it's really that, then in theory, the guy who has a literal drawer full of Super Bowl rings and who worked for one of the greatest minds ever, won a couple rings and won 6 of his own, and coached another however many it was, and oh, by the way, was the general manager during a lot of that time with the Patriots. If it really is NFL light, then in theory this should work. And for folks that don't know, other schools have had general managers. I'm going to Ohio State this weekend. They've had a GM for several years. That was something that Urban Meyer put in place. And so, but if this is really going to become a professional sport, which everyone acts like it is, then in theory, the guy who was the best at this current era of professional football should be really good at it. But what you know and I know and everyone who really loves college football knows, the biggest challenge for every coach, even if they've been doing this forever, is the stuff you don't see coming. I was just with Kenny Dillingham out at Arizona State, which was on the list of programs that why are they not better at football? And he talked about that. He'd been a high school coach, college coach, whatever, since he was 17 years old. And when he got this job, he thought he knew what it was. He didn't know. You just don't know till you get in there. So everyone's going to be watching this to see if it works. Because if it works, great. If it doesn't, it's kind of like when all these great college coaches go to the NFL and flop. If Bill Belichick can't do it at the college level, then I don't know if anybody will ever try anything like this ever again.
All right, final thing on this before we move on to the season that we just experienced, Ryan McGee, ESPN Senior Writer, is that when I looked and I tried to add up the amount of money that was going to be necessary, and then what Carolina's budget is and all of that, my guess is the amount of private funding for something like this at UNC, which no ACC school has the media revenue that they have in the SEC and the Big Ten. So in order to compete at that level financially, this is going to take, I don't know, $30, $40 million annually of private money to pull this off. How sustainable at UNC do you think that is?
I don't know where it comes from. And I'm not even going to try to pretend like I know the inner workings of the Chapel Hill alumni base. Now, I live in Charlotte, and we half jokingly refer to Charlotte as Chapel Hill South. And everyone I know who has done very, very well in the finance sector or when it comes to being an attorney, most of the people that I know where I'm sitting right here in South Charlotte who are living in houses way nicer than mine, they all went to Carolina. And so, they're going to have to pitch in if they legit want to do it. Like I went to Tennessee. We all know that the Haslam family is going to pay for everything, right? if you go to Texas, the oil guys are going to pay for everything. Yeah. Like we just seen with SMU. Where the money's coming from. I just don't know enough about the North Carolina power brokers to know where that money is coming from. But sustainability is the point. Like when you said that, it's one thing to write the checks in the short term to make it work. And this is something I've talked to the people at Arizona State about and people at Colorado about, these schools that have turned it around in a really short period of time. You can do it, but the question is, are the same people who wrote the millions and millions of dollars worth of checks to make sure to turn it around quickly, will they get tired of this, right? Mm-hmm. Will they keep writing the checks, or will they go, well, now why in the hell am I writing a check for a running back for us to win, 10 games and maybe go to Charlotte when we could have gone and gotten a 5-star power forward out of California, So,
right.
So the question is, in the short term, everybody wants in, but can you sustain this for the length of his contract, which is 5 years, and then past that? Because you're going to have to if you're going to keep up.
We know Michael Jordan is going to scratch a check. I don't know if James Taylor has interest in college football. It is. He's I don't know. He's a handy man, but I don't know if he's going to write a check for the football program. Ryan,
listen. I know the people that I sit with, that I see. We're on press row at the Dean Dome. I know the people. My stepmom. I know all these people. There's the High Point Furniture people, and the tobacco people. I know all these people. And I also know those are the people who get up and leave the Duke game in November in football or the state game because basketball team's on TV at 3 o'clock. And so are you really going to write those checks for an extended period of time to win football games? I hope they do, because it's a lot more interesting if they do. But if they don't, I won't be surprised.
All right, final thing, and I know you have to go, but I just want to get your thoughts. We just had our first 12-team playoff season. So if I asked you to characterize this season, what would you say?
I thought it was super entertaining, and I thought that way more people were engaged in it than we've seen in the past. The concern was if we expand the postseason is that going to take away from the regular season? And I can tell you, I was at a lot of these mid-season games that people thought wouldn't be as emotional, Tennessee, Alabama, or, Georgia, Texas, or whatever. And, the SEC championship game, I was there on the sideline. We did that alternate cast for ESPN the whole game. And I said 2 or 3 times during the game, anybody that thought it wasn't going to be as intense here because of the playoff, they're wrong. Because it just people had to watch Arizona State football, and they had to watch Boise State football, and they had to watch Colorado football. They had to watch everyone because, what this team was doing was affecting what your team's chances might be. And the reality was, we hit November with 20 teams thinking they could make the postseason. And in the past, that number had been down to 7. And so I thought it was great. I hope that this model will sustain the entertainment value, but I just know that the TV ratings were through the roof.
Yeah.
And, and I don't, I don't know if I saw that coming.
Well, college football is the second most popular sport in the United States behind the National Football League. So we're going to get more games. They're going to expand this. They say 14. I'll be stunned if it's not 16 pretty soon, and I'll be even more stunned. It's going to,
It's got to get a 16. Yeah, it's got to. It's just that's what's always worked at the lower levels. I don't like the fact that D2 and
I think ultimately we're going to be at 24, to be perfectly honest.
Yep.
So,
sure. Well, I'll take 16 right now. I just don't like buys. Whatever we do, I don't want buys. I think buys are so NFL. Save that for Sunday.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that just like for Arizona State, Clemson, Boise State, getting in should be enough. I don't think they have to get seeded in the top 4. Now, Clemson didn't, but I think the best 4 teams, if we're going to have buys, the best 4 teams should have gotten the buys. And we shouldn't make – I don't think Penn State's one of the best 4 teams, but regardless, same with Texas. But regardless, we shouldn't be rewarding that, or we should be rewarding the best and not just who are the best 4 conference champions. Ryan McGee, I know you got to run. I appreciate your time. Short notice as well. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. Talk to you next season.
Hey, always. Appreciate it. Happy New Year, everybody.
You got it. Ryan McGee here from ESPN.